DeSantis. Okay, how do we, or do you think that DeSantis can even beat Trump?
Okay, so it's almost at halftime. They're down 37 points. How many times have you seen a team come back from halftime being down 37?
Never.
Not often, right? I was at a game one time, playoff game. Rockets are playing the Clippers. They're up 28 points going into the fourth quarter. It's me and Robert Greene, author of 40 Laws of Power. You remember that day when we were together. He's like, you want to go to dinner? I said, why don't I just wait 2 minutes? And then they bench James Harden. I don't know why they bench James Harden. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. Rockets came back and beat the Clippers being down 28 with Harden on the bench. I'm like, what? What the hell just happened right now? Couldn't believe it. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So Harden in this case is who? DeSantis. Casey can help him win it. Casey is very unique.
Casey,
you see his wife. His wife is have you seen his wife speak?
I thought you were talking about Casey Neistat. I was like, is he going to do daily vlogs?
Casey, if you watch Casey in a small setting, oh my God.
She's on it.
Talent. Talent like you wouldn't believe. Wins by, attractive, good talker, smart, intelligent, supportive, protective, defends the husband, has the story, can connect with moms. It's a very unique dynamic part that he has. Look, this is the best way to look at who DeSantis is. Who in here is the one that knows the most about technology, shit breaking down, data, statistic? Who is the most analytical, organized person in this floor right now? Who's a person?
Probably
Mark.
Mark?
I mean,
you put Mark. Okay. How well is Mark on camera?
Good.
How great?
He's a star. Right.
Is he?
Guy's a star.
He's a star. Okay. This is the last name. What's your last name?
Gagnon.
Okay.
That'll lose you in a
fortunately, the Gagnon, you said, what was it called? Show called? It's the podcast called?
Yeah, it was Camp Gagnon.
Yeah, and you go to, you listen to 2 songs to get home, right?
Yes.
What was the song you said? The Red Hot Chili Peppers?
It was, Give It Away and then Black Hole Sun today.
7 minutes to get home, right? 7 or 8 minutes to get home. Okay. Now, fortunately, he has charisma. But in most cases, a guy that can go, like in my case, when I was coming up on Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, I had a guy that was next to me. He knew everything about every product we sold. I could not believe how much this guy knew. He would do laps around the branch, man, around everybody. Couldn't sell.
Yeah.
Didn't have the charisma.
That's my concern with DeSantis.
DeSantis can do laps around anybody when it comes on to policies, Constitution, all this stuff. But he's going to need to lean on his wife for the charisma side, because even yesterday when he's doing the live, he just read for 7 minutes.
Bro, that's the thing. It's like, and I think he's doing the same thing that like Hillary did, which is Charlemagne had an interesting thing about like Hillary when Hillary ran. And he goes, when Hillary ran, she came on the Breakfast Club. And they teased her about saying that she had hot sauce in her bag.
Oh, my God. I'll never forget that.
But when he said now, were you just saying that to pander to black people? She took a moment. And her like robot brain was about to spew out some bullshit. And then she just went, did it work? And it was the first real moment you've ever seen with Hillary. And everybody laughed. And it was like, oh, there's an actual human being in here that's not having everything like field tested that she's about to say. My concern with DeSantis is everybody around him has told him it's a lock. He's going to win. So now he's playing prevent defense. He's like, I don't want to say the wrong thing that's going to fuck it up for me. Prevent defense prevents you from winning. And I feel like every single thing he's going to say is going to be buttoned down to the T, and you're going to lose any charisma. If we've learned anything, you need fucking charisma. And if he doesn't have it, he can maybe beat Biden. Maybe. But he's not beating that fucking Trump
Only
guy.
one way he can beat him. Only one way. Listen, it's so funny you said this. You know what we talked about in the first 5 minutes of the podcast? How only the paranoid survive. Their camp is not paranoid enough.
That's the problem.
What are you doing? Like, well, I'm sorry. The guy won in 2016, and he is the greatest smack talker of all time, one of the greatest showmen, not been a better marketer than him in political space. He came out of a city, New York, where in the rooms he has to negotiate with, these are killers. You think he's intimidated by going up against a guy like, who are we talking?
He's building skyscrapers in bureaucratic nightmare New York City. I don't think people understand how difficult that fucking thing is.
He's buying air. He's buying like, You can't build in the light in this, like that negotiation is not going to be easy. So that's the part with only the paranoid survive when it comes on. But one of the ways that they could be relying on Trump, on DeSantis winning, sometimes when a person comes in and they're a little too confident, they know something we don't know. And I don't know what this is. Listen, I'm not starting anything here, but here's what I mean by it.
Start that shit.
Here's what I mean by it. So if they're banking on the reason why they keep delaying, because they think the law would have prevented them having to even get ugly. And rather, they wanted to delay it so far so Trump gets arrested and he can't run. And then they come out and he says, look, I don't care what you say. If it wasn't for the president, I would have never been a governor. I would have never. He's up to win the MAGA vote. And I think there's a little bit of that where maybe they were relying on the law to make this thing easier. Now you have to fight the guy.
So DeSantis thought that he was going to get locked up. And then if he did get locked up,
he doesn't have to
he
do
would defend him.
He would defend
and then take all the MAGA voters.
It would have been the easiest one.
That's the smartest thing in the world.
It would have been the easiest
one. But now he got to knuckle
game,
up.
Though,
now he got to knuckle up.
You want to talk about bureaucracy? There's nothing more bureaucratic than locking up a billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to take a long time.
So do you think the DNC maybe are like holding the real serious shit about Trump? Wait to them to like fight it out in the mud and then make it so Trump can't run?
You know, so these guys are like, oh, the Democrats want Trump to be the face. The Democrats want Trump to win. The Democrats want Trump to win because they know they can beat him again. Because the Democrats, okay, cool. Let's play that out. If that's the case, Alvin Bragg, I'm sorry, why do you do that? Oh, because it helps him. I don't know if it helps him, the pictures of him being in court. Yeah, well, you know, with the Mar-a-Lago FBI, well, what? Because that helped? No, it doesn't help him. What? Like, if you really think he's the guy, help him beat DeSantis.
Yeah,
so they're not playing that, you know, dark political games of, so, well, you know, DeSantis is really the guy that, you know, he's going to win, and then they're going to go after DeSantis. Or the establishment wants DeSantis because DeSantis is more establishment than Trump is. And it's easier to negotiate with an establishment than it is to negotiate with an anti-establishment because one wants to drain the swamp. The other one is coming from the swamp. That's what some people are saying, right? That DeSantis is kind of part of the swamp. Who knows what's going on? All I can tell you is a lot of this stuff here behind closed doors, there's a lot of talks and negotiations going on that we probably are not a part of, and we're probably not a part of. We're not a part of. But this is the best. This is the one question nobody can answer me. Here's a question for me that nobody can answer. Okay, I had this girl, Whitney Webb, on. Very smart girl. Okay, wrote these books about Epstein. Mm-hmm. She lives in Colombia. She's got 2 kids. Doesn't want to live here. She feels safer over there. In the podcast, she gets emotional. I don't know if you saw that. She's just powerful. Who she is, how smart she is. But she can't stand Trump. Okay, she can't stand the establishment, but she cannot stand Trump. So I asked her a question. I said, I got a question for you. He says, what's that? I said, tell me the biggest institutions, departments that have made our lives hell since 1963, November of 1963. Why November of 1963? November 22nd, we know what happened. I'm saying November 1st of 1963. November 22nd, JFK gets assassinated. And she says, I said, give me the names, I want to write them down, that made our lives a living hell. Okay, CIA, great, who else? DOJ, great, who else? Well, I would put FBI, but FBI is part of DOJ. Okay, great, what else? You know, NIH, great, what else? CDC, what else? Okay, all of this stuff that we're going through, all these, Federal Reserve, all this stuff that we're writing down. Okay, great. I said, now give me the families in the last 60-some years since November 1st of 1960 that have made America worse, or have made our lives worse. They've had to control the establishment. She's given all these names, the Clintons, the this, the this, the that. We're going through all of them, right? Okay, yeah. Exactly. And then I asked the question, I said, now tell me this. How many of these organizations love Trump? She says the following. She says, I see where you're going with this. I said, there's only, the closest example to Trump is only one other name. What's that?
Bernie.
No, it's John F. Kennedy. Come on, Pat. Let me tell you why. If you look at what these guys wanted to do with the Federal Reserve, with the CIA, with finishing the Vietnam War, with doing all this stuff, we can't do. Are you kidding me? The guy was draining the swamp at the highest level, and Lyndon Johnson was the swamp. He is part of the oil guy. He is a Texas guy. He was supportive of the war. He was supportive of military-industrial complex. And John F. Kennedy's more from the Eisenhower side saying, listen, we don't need to go to war to make all this money with the military. Why do we keep going to war? There's only the closest case study you got to Trump is John F. Kennedy. I'll give you another statistic here. Watch this. When John F. Kennedy ran, his dad, Joseph Kennedy, gangster. If you not studied this guy, one of the most powerful men in America the last 100 years, he's kind of like the Moses, what's his name? Who's the guy in New York, the power broker? Peter Moses, something like that. So
Robert Moses.
Yes.
Yeah.
He built New York pretty much, right? Yeah. All the stuff that he's hated and loved and admired, all this. So, okay, Joseph Kennedy, at the time, he's worth $400 million in 1962. He says, I'm willing to spend every single penny of my life savings to make sure my son becomes a president.
Which son?
John F. Kennedy, not the oldest one.
The oldest one was first.
Died, but he died.
And he died. But the plan the whole time
was the oldest.
You're
right.
Oldest one dies
yes.
in the war. Then they have to make a fake war story for JFK so that he can actually run. This guy is the architect.
Joseph?
Bro, I mean...
Bro, listen, whoever's...
Why do we not have a movie?
That's exactly what I was about to say. You need a movie about this guy.
I wonder if they block it, because the idea of the Kennedys right now is like this tragic family that has went through all this horrible stuff, and we almost feel bad for them. But if you know what that is a motherfucker right there.
If you have a script, you're watching this of Joseph Kennedy, send it our way.
$100 million.
Info at Valuetainment. We're entertaining that movie if you have a script. Anyways, going back to Joseph Kennedy, $25 million for John F. Kennedy's campaign. Okay, 50% of the money for the campaign was raised. The other 50% was Joseph Kennedy's money. Okay, now watch history. How much money who raised? Okay, Ronald Reagan put 9.6% of all the money for his campaign. Okay, 9.6% of his own money. The guy almost got assassinated and killed. Here we go. The next one is Ross Perot. 97% of his campaign money was his own money. He went up to 21%. He didn't win, but guess what? He cost George Bush Sr. becoming the president. Yeah. Clinton won. If it's not for Perot, Bush is the president.
Yep. Yeah.
The director of CIA, he's going to be the president.
That's insane for an independent to get 20+% of the vote.
Plus
it's
percent.
Fucking, and as a kid, I didn't know how rare that was, and I was like, oh, this guy got washed. And no, that's crazy.
Trump, 72%.
Yep.
72%. Hillary Clinton.
0.
Biden.
0.
They don't have to. By the way, Bernie Sanders is also anti-establishment. But you know what he did? He caved at the end.
He did.
It should have been Trump against Bernie Sanders. It should have never been.
He got scared.
He caved. And they did something behind. I think they have something on Bernie that he's embarrassed of. Because it should have been the argument that we all wanted to see. Let the two true believers. Bernie's a true believer socialist. Yeah. You know, he calls it socialist, democratic socialist. And Trump's a true believer. I want to see that fight. We never got to see that fight. That was a fight. Hillary Clinton wasn't really a fight. So when you look at some of this stuff and you say, why are these institutions...
What do you think they have on Bernie? Do you think it's some stuff from him? Didn't he go over to Russia and
got married there? That's when his honeymoon was out of Russia, by the way.
So maybe it's that. Maybe there's something.
Gives a shit, though.
America gives a shit.
No, I don't think they do. No, I don't think they do. I think
the middle of Russia, Ukraine. Let me
tell you what's one of the worst places to be in. Okay, here's one of the worst places to be in. My opinion. Somebody calls you and they have something on you. You have a major f up, major screw up that you did, and like, hey, if you don't do this, we're going to go public with this. Okay. You sit there and you say, okay, this is potentially going to cost me a divorce. You know, my kids, I have to explain to them. It's going to be a very embarrassing moment with my kids here. My friends are going to say, what the hell were you thinking? That sucks. And you're 62 years old. You're 71 years old. I don't need to freaking talk. My legacy will be protected forever. Or if you're wise, you're going to say, they're going to bring it out anyways. My kids are going to know about it anyways. You know what I'm doing? What? I'm doing the, 8 Mile story.
Yep.
I'm going to my kids and my wife and my family and say, listen, guys, we got to have a meeting here. Your father screwed up 19 years ago. Here's what I did. Boom, boom, boom. But I'm going to go and tell the world right now, right afterwards. And I'm going to tell them they came and gave me the threat. And this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And I hope you take value. Now I'm going to come out and say, hey, let me tell you guys, I got an uncomfortable announcement to make. And then I hope you respect the fact that I'm doing this because I don't want to be held hostage.
You show a picture of how hot the girl was.
This is like
listen, look at this. Listen, you would do it too, America.
That's Hugh Grant, right?
Babe,
That's what Hugh Grant did, right? He got, I think that the actor, he got caught with a prostitute and then went on Letterman or something and was like, hey.
I think they'd already found out and then he just owned it and then he had
he reacted to the news coming out. But jumping the gun on that is fire. Going on Letterman to promote promote the movie and then be like, yo, I got something else to tell you.
Yeah.
Very disappointed. But go watch the movie this Friday.
I'd go.
Quick question about Trump's 71%. I don't know how to ask this without sounding super anti-Trump, but don't we know to not necessarily trust his accounting and his numbers? Isn't he kind of like, doesn't he have a history of fudging numbers?
So can I tell you something here?
So how do you, yeah.
So I brought at our Vol conference last year, this year we're going to have Brady, Tyson, and Will Guidara from 11 Madison at the event this year in Miami.
The chef?
The chef, yeah, he'll be there. So
Tell him to put some meat on the menu.
what is this stuff? I don't know. Send that to me. I was a little bit surprised by that.
I know.
But it's not him now. It's another person that's choosing the menu, apparently. I don't know who's choosing the menu now.
He stepped away.
I don't know. I think somebody told me that. But I want to answer this question for you. So you're asking about, accounting, right? Okay. 5 years ago, I'm at the Four Seasons Spa in Dallas, and I'm doing a business planning strategy session, but I go to the sauna downstairs, and this guy's like, hey, man, I saw your interview with this guy. I'm like, okay, so what do you do? I'm an investment banker. Which firm? Such and such. Oh, cool. How much money? Oh, we do this. Big guy in his 60s, late 50s, early 60s. He says, I said, what's the best speaker you ever heard? He says, you don't tell him? I said, I've heard Tony Robbins. I've heard Zig Ziglar. I heard this guy. No one was a more life-changing speaker I heard speak than Andy Fastow. I said, which Andy Fastow? He said, the Andy Fastow. I said, Enron, CFO, jail, Andy. Yes. How is Andy Fastow the greatest speaker you've ever heard? He says, he came in. This is a CFO of a company that's got 100,000 employees working for Enron. And he gets up and he says, here's how this accounting world works. Here's me recognized as the accountant of the year, CFO. Here's next month, my card ID at the jail. I went from this to this. Now, let me tell you what happened. He said, I followed every single guideline everybody else followed. And whatever everybody else was doing, we did it as well. But we, for the same exact comparison, we got caught. And here's what happened to us. All of a sudden, boom, Enron, he's going to jail. Then they try to get his wife and all this. He does 8 years. Anyways, he comes out. Now he's doing what he's doing. We had him at the event to speak and tell the story. Because you have to be careful when you make money, who is on your team. So think about right now Elon Musk's life. Think about his life. He's running Tesla. He's running Twitter. He's running SpaceX. He has, I don't know how many kids, 8 or 9 kids. And he has to talk to his accountant. And he has to talk to his Goldman guy, his Morgan guy. And he has to follow the accounting laws that are changing And how do you, okay, I'm hiring this accounting firm. Do I hire this forensics to audit this accounting firm before I hire the accounting firm? At the next level, it's very complicated. I'm not undermining anything there. I think the one angle you could have taken is to say, well, yeah, he funded 71 or 72% of his campaign, but isn't that from his father's money? Because his father gave him $1 million or $10 million or $40 million. I can see that as an argument, to say he got money from his family. But John F. Kennedy, some call him one of the greatest presidents we've had in the last 50, 60 years. 50%, all the money was given by his dad. He didn't make his money. At least Trump operated and built some stuff. These names on these towers wasn't his dad. It's him putting the names on the towers. So, yes, I understand what you're saying on the accounting side, but I think it's important for people to realize when you're making $500,000 a year, you have a very easy way of doing your accounting.
But also, isn't campaign finance super strategic? You can't just fluff numbers on your campaign spending. Right?
I'm an idiot.
Isn't that what they're getting him for right now? If you could hide that, then we wouldn't even have the trial.
Listen, if they go that route, there's going to be 50 other people right now running to Singapore to make sure they're not next to investigate them. What these guys are doing.
What do you think happened with JFK?
What do you think happened with JFK? I'm not a fan of Lyndon Johnson. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm always very careful with super ambitious people who are not talented, don't have charisma, and are not willing to work as hard as you. You have to be very careful with them. Very. The most dangerous people in society are lazy, ambitious people. Oh my God, they're dangerous. Distance yourself from them. Stay close. Don't offend them. Do your best to not, get on their bad side, because they're working 24/7 to come after you. And to me, think about John F. Kennedy. Attractive, good-looking, great last name. All the women love you. Marilyn Monroe, Jackie Kennedy. You're this freaking guy that you're on cover of every single magazine, and there's this guy named Lyndon. You were a kid. You wanted to be a president. And John F. Kennedy didn't want to be a president. John F. Kennedy, his father wanted the oldest son to be a president. John F. Kennedy had back problems. He had issues. He had things that he was dealing with. He was just a guy that wanted to live a regular life. Just always keep your eyes out on lazy, ambitious, non-charismatic people.
You think LBJ set him up?
If I'm a betting man, of course I can't say 100%, but if I'm a betting man, I'm going to say, 60% yes, it's him.
What chance do you think it was that he was taken out by Russia?
From which standpoint? From the angle of the fact that, he had gone and stayed in Russia and his girlfriend and the wife and all that stuff. Back in the days they were using this one drug to get you not be thinking what you're doing and then you snap out of it again. I don't know if you...
MK Ultra experiments?
MK Ultra experience. So, by the way, this is another...
Now you're speaking our language
by the way,
here,
this is the thing. There's a reason why this guy is I call him one of the sharpest cats in the market, but he's very good at, Schultz is brilliant, man.
What's he doing to you right now? What do you think's going on? What do you think?
Listen,
what game is he running?
He knows when we finish the podcast how big of a fan I am of his. I think he's a modern-day Johnny Carson. I think he's super capable. I think this is a guy that is a very... here's what I'd like with him. This is what I would like with him. It's what he wants. But I would like to see him talk to the average day-to-day people. And that happens at 11 o'clock at night. Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, a show. When Greg Gutfeld, who's very good at what he does.
Shout out to Greg, yeah.
Very good at what he does. He is number one beating out Fallon, Kimmel. The only reason is because there's not a Letterman, there's not a Leno, there's not a Johnny Carson today. Nothing against them. They got a great crew going on. But it just means the product of Kimmel and Fallon is not that good today. That's just all it means. Because you have forgotten how to talk to the regular person in America. So the strength of a Johnny is I can talk with anybody, but most importantly, I know how to talk to America. That's why people love them.
Yeah.
And I think he's the modern-day Johnny Carson.
Where was Johnny from? Oh, it was Omaha?
I think it was Omaha. Yeah.
I think that was huge for Johnny. Yeah. I think growing up there and understanding what everyday people are allowed him to communicate those sensibilities to the people in the highest echelons of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And even going back and watching him, unbelievably charismatic, self-deprecating. Imagine being the number one guy on television when there's 4 channels. We're not talking about now when there's a million different channels, a million different YouTube. We're talking about you are ubiquitous, right? And making fun of yourself constantly. A joke bombs on TV. Every night you're teasing yourself about doing it. A really special person that I wish that this generation could understand how he maintained, his personal life may be wild and doing some crazy shit.
Married 4 times, all that stuff.
Yeah, pulling a gun out on the dude, banging his wife or whatever. Just a badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
But what he was able to do and how he was able to keep relatively even keel with having that much influence, power, and adulation is commendable. Not everybody can handle success like that.
You're 100% right. You're absolutely right. And, he was one of a kind on how he did it. So going back to Russia, you think Russia was the...
I don't know. It's just a tricky situation because you can't acknowledge that a foreign country killed your leader without going to war and everybody dying, right? So you have to maybe make up a story that removes their claim to victory from them to protect your national identity. If it comes out that we took them out, look at what happened with Iran, right? When Trump zapped the dude and then puts the American flag on. It's the goat.
And then they bomb a unit with nobody added. And they said, look what we did. We retaliated.
Exactly.
No, you didn't.
So they had to do that to keep up their...
You're talking about Soleimani.
Soleimani, yeah. So they had to do it to keep up their, I guess, morale, image, whatever it is. But... not only, I guess, struck first, but we took credit for it. Let's say we didn't even do it. Let's say they did it by accident. Trump throwing the flag up there steals the story.
He's a marketer.
You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't matter.
That's what people said when you had oil money. You're like, I got oil money. I killed Soleimani. Who knows?
But for real, and that's how you know Russia didn't want the smoke either. Because if Russia did do it, the fact that they never claimed it means that they don't want
Who benefited
war.
the most? Think about who benefited
The
most.
establishment. I'm with you on that argument. I think that you look at like a lot of times throughout history, especially like when you start to delve into conspiracy land. Conspiracy doesn't mean something's not true, but the way that like certain presidents have been attacked, especially the ones that oppose certain institutions that you've spoken about. Like Andrew Jackson is the #1 dude, right?
Ultimate guy. Yeah, you're
So
right.
Jackson takes down the Fed, right?
Yeah.
And the way that we remember Jackson is he's the most racist president ever. He hated Native Americans. It's like, they all did. The idea that we're putting him on a pedestal for being racist
But
and
the way
hating
you
Native
sell
Americans.
the story to kids, it sticks.
Yeah.
The way you're like, oh, he reminds me of this guy. And this whole concept with nationalism, you know, how the word is a bad word, being a nationalist. What's the antonym of nationalism? What is the antonym of nationalism? Globalism.
Globalism.
Okay, so listen,
Ooh.
I'm proud of being I love my country. I'm not going to be a globalist.
Yeah. I've traveled the globe. Don't love all of
Yeah,
it.
no, I'm good. Yeah.
I'm a nationalist. I am.
You look like you had a blast in Morocco. Where were we? Morocco, right?
Morocco's
Yeah.
amazing.
You guys had a fucking blast.
I got the sweater
so
from.
much.
So what's the next spot? Where are you going to next?
Can we say? Yeah, we'll talk about it. We're gonna go to. Well, we'll go. We're gonna go to Turkey. Have some
Sick.
fun in
Good.
Turkey.
Istanbul or like
Pop into
all over?
Istanbul, Bodrum. Have a nice little summer
Nice.
vacay.
They have good bookstores there. I think you guys are going to enjoy the libriaries and
Yeah,
the
that's what
coffee.
we're there for.
Yeah, it's great.
100%.
I'm sure. I believe it.
But I do like the way that Turkey is. I don't know. I just love their role in history, especially like ancient history. You know, you see all these. That's kind of the new conspiracy I'm getting into. The history before history.
The history before history.
Yeah.
Which part of Turkey?
Oh God, what's the name of it? There's
Göbekli Tepe.
there's one site, but there's like this specific area where they have all these. They've discovered all these like cities that are underground, and they've been like carved into the bedrock, and where people would live. And you're talking about some of these cities are so meticulously designed that they went down to the water level and stopped right before the water level. So you have access to water while you're underground and protected from whatever was, going on upstairs. And who knows what it was? Maybe it was meteor showers. Maybe it was crazy animals. Who knows? But human beings went underground for a stage in our existence, and we don't know why. Go for it.
You guys got to get to the bottom of it. We got to figure this thing out.
I got to get you down to like a nice little rabbit hole. But this is the cool thing about, I think lately, as we discover more about history, the timelines start to change. You've seen it with like the pyramids and all the Egyptian stuff, You should get a guy named Graham Hancock on your pod.
Is he the guy, the YouTuber with like 6 million subs or something like that?
There's a few other guys. I mean, we had...
you know who I'm talking about? The guy that does these history videos that...
Uncharted X.
We had a guy named Ben Van Kerkwyk on who is fantastic as well. And it's just a bunch of these guys who have studied these like, ancient structures.
Yeah.
And, part of the analysis is we don't think that this is physically capable with a stone and a pick. So there had to be some sort of technology, or it had to happen way earlier and the remnants of those civilizations is completely wiped out, which is kind of exciting. Right? Don't you want to know that this has happened all before? How different are we really?
Yeah.
Like, Mark, you were saying about when you went to Pompeii. Have you been to Pompeii?
No.
But like, you
Pompeii.
In southern Italy.
Yeah, Napoli.
It was covered by Mount Vesuvius in like 32 AD, giant eruption, and then basically perfectly preserved the city until it was uncovered in like the 80s or 90s.
So it's completely locked in, right? Because it was wiped out in a day. Everybody was hanging out. And then you see how they're living, and it's there's like a fucking dick museum. There's there's brothels and stuff like that. And the brothels all have like paintings of what you can do because not everybody spoke the language. It was a big like a mariner city.
Yeah.
But like
prostitutes
Prostitutes
they wore sandals with a symbol for prostitution, so you could follow where the sandals were and you could find the prostitutes that way.
they got fast food
Very
restaurants and
strategic.
shit. And it's just like, oh, wow, a few thousand years ago, they're living the exact same way. In many, in certain, with certain things that we are right now.
Podcasting, everything.
Yeah, there was definitely pods going. Super.
Twitter Spaces, there's the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, so, all right, where are we at? We're at conspiracies. You think it was maybe these institutions maintaining power. Okay, come at it from another angle. We can't sit here and believe that like the course of America is plotted in 4-year increments, right? So in other words, like a new president comes in, he's like, all right, here are all my ideas. You go do it. You've run businesses that are incredibly successful. You couldn't have a new CEO pop in every 4 years and then they work, right? You need a long-term strategy, right?
So you don't think 8 years is enough?
What I don't think is that the president makes any decisions.
You don't think he makes any decisions?
I think they let him make a few. I think they let
That's
him
a
make
good
a
strategy.
few.
You just say what he says back to him, and then he's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. I
Who's
think
they?
that's the question. Who is they? That is the fun one right there. Who is they? You know, why isn't Epstein arrested? They know. Who's this guy who just bought Epstein's island? And why are we letting him buy it? And why didn't we all buy it? Why didn't me, you, Rogan, and other rich people that can foot the bill go and buy the island and then explore it for ourselves? We'll find something there. A retainer case. You know, I guess, who is the they? That's the exciting one.
Honestly, if you can answer that question, who is they?
Yeah.
You can answer a lot of different things.
Then they will kill you if you can answer that
they
question.
will.
They will kill you.
Yeah,
But no,
Andrew Schultz,
yeah.
what a great guy. We're here at his funeral. It's wonderful.
You're dressed for it.
Incredible guy. I'm dressed for it.
I can't say much more because they're here.
But yeah, who is it? I don't know. Do you believe America can change? Like, do you don't believe that there's a long-term strategy, that you have people maybe in the State Department or the CIA or the FBI? I don't even know if the FBI would work in that way, but there's a longer geopolitical strategy that's attached to this country. I would hope.
Play the dark role. What is the outcome? What do they want to do?
Preserve America and its
The
interests.
dark side? The dark, so
Yeah.
Yeah, maintain American supremacy.
Because American supremacy allows their businesses to flourish.
Okay.
Like a lot of people have said that, you know, the CIA in a lot of ways operates in the interests of these billion-dollar corporations. And I'm not just talking about like the ones that make the bombs and stuff. You might have a corporation that's selling bananas that come from Nicaragua.
Yeah, you control the money, you control the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, all of a sudden Nicaragua wants to make a country out of itself. Well, that fucks up my banana business. Hey, CIA guy, can you do me a favor and
United
stop fucking
Fruit,
up my
who knows?
banana? Yeah, like, and then they might go in there, put somebody else in power, and who knows? Maybe that's beneficial to America in some way. We consume a lot of bananas, and we need them to get out of Nicaragua. I don't know, but there has to be somebody or a group of people, and I'm sure some of them are, you know, connected to politics. Maybe these like lifelong politicians, like a Nancy Pelosi type. It's like, what is she? She's a House of Representatives. She's not even a senator, right? She's
Speaker
a
of the House, yeah,
So
she
she's
was.
She was Speaker of the House, but she's in a House. So she got a campaign every 2 years. Really? This old lady's going to run around every 2 years for 40 years to maintain this shitty little seat in the House of Representatives? She got to be part of something bigger, right? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
You know, they just had the meeting, right? The meeting in Europe, the
G7.
what is it called?
Davos.
No, not the Davos. There's another one that just happened right now this week where, not the G7, the one where they're all sitting around saying, you'll see if you pull it up, the AI, and they had all these different issues, and they went through. This used to be a secret society meeting where nobody would talk about it publicly. Now they're no longer saying it private. They're saying this meeting was being done here. Used to be in San Francisco, I want to say.
Bilderberg.
Oh,
yeah.
the Bilderberg conference.
The
I
Bilderberg
think-
conference they
Wasn't that
had.
in like Sweden or Norway or something?
Sweden
like
or Norway. So I think it's Sweden. And they wrote out exactly who was there, what the topics are, what the issues are.
Well, there's some good conspiracy stuff about this conference.
Yeah. Zeitgeist. It was in Zeitgeist for
that
Loose
it?
Change or one of those, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
So the whole thing is like, who is they? Are they? Or is there a guy that's like, okay, have those guys sit right next to each other? Why is that person here? Who invited him? Oh, okay, I see why we have him. He needs to meet with them because we need to get that deal because we need that technology here for South Africa because of the deal that we're doing with India. So they, like, who is they? You
That's
know,
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Who is it? And who continues to hire these people? And how do we make sure that we have the best talent? How do those people get recruited?
Do you think there's a couple different theys?
Yeah. No. So I think that this is my hope. And I know this sounds crazy to hope, but like I think that my hope is that there is a group of people that are the theys that we're thinking about, right? And these people probably work for government institutions. Maybe some of them are politicians. Maybe you want some that are in, and they're like the career politicians that you're like, why haven't you done more? Like, why is Nancy Pelosi campaigning every 2 years? Like, you're too famous to campaign. Like, why not why be a senator? Campaign every 6 years. It would just be easier.
Power job, though. Speaker of the House is a very powerful
Of course,
job.
but she wasn't always speaker, right?
Yeah.
And she's
No,
been
she
involved in
wasn't.
politics
Yeah.
forever.
Forever,
So you have a few of those people, and they plot the course of America, and those people interface with the billion-dollar corporations that are incredibly successful within America. My assumption is that once you're a Bezos, once you're an Elon, you're a government employee. And not in a bad way, but it's like, hey, you want to keep on gaining money and gaining influence and being successful, Google has to talk to the government.
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think Elon, his vision with what he's doing is good? Like, if I would ask you, what percentage of trust do you have that Elon is a good person trying to do good versus evil, what would you say?
I think Elon is a good person trying to do good and the best. I think he believes that he is doing the right thing. And I think that sometimes comes at odds with the powers that be.
Okay.
And I think that's why you see, like, for example, everybody loved Elon. Elon was the darling. There was the left and the right. The left were buying his electric cars, and the right was like, here's this businessman. He's making all this money. We love him. It was the one thing the left and the right could come together on and agree on. And then Elon gave a political opinion. He tweeted, it's hard for me to, I'm a lifelong Democrat. It's hard for me to consider myself a Democrat now. And just like anytime Joe Rogan says that he supports a presidential candidate or anybody with influence, and you're going to go through this as well, there was a smear campaign that happened the day after, and they were out there, whoever they is, out there trying to make him radioactive. Maybe that's the DNC. Maybe it's not even the theys that we're talking about. Maybe that's much
lower level, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's like DNC to me is like low level shit.
Right.
It's like you're trying to get someone into office. Like, that's not the game we're playing. That's temporary game. Theys, that's forever game. Theys are like manifest destiny. Like, we want to go back. Theys are like, yo, let's buy Louisiana.
Are you saying like Coke? You're talking about Rothschild. You're talking about
Peter
Soros.
Thiel.
You're talking about those types of guys.
I think those are the guys that get to interface with the government employees, right? Because you need someone who's actually part of the fabric of the government, and then you have so much success within business that you become part of the government. So Google can't operate on its own. The government needs to know what Google knows, and Google is like, you know what? That's fine, because otherwise I go to prison or whatever the fuck it is. Zuckerberg gets a call. Everybody gets a call, right? Like, we even saw it with Twitter, right? Wasn't like the FBI interfacing with Twitter and telling them about it. So we know that they're discussing things, and we know things are going on. And like, to be honest, that's why I think you're in the best position, where it's just like you have generational wealth. Like, if you wanted to stop right now, you're good. Your kids will be good. Your kids' kids will be good. And obviously, hopefully, you put the values in them to make sure they make these smart decisions. Like, you have real freedom right now. You have real freedom on planet Earth. That is fucking crazy. That is like 0.0000001% of human beings even get here. The only way to get there without money is like if you could live off the land. And fuck that. I'm not trying to camp every single day, right? You know what I mean? I want air conditioning. I want a fucking house, right? So once you get to multi-billionaire status, now you get the calls from those theys. And you'll find out who theys are, but you got to be willing to pay the cost. And then they might call you and be like, listen, Trump ain't the guy, man. He's messing up these deals that are 50 years in the making. Like, he's talking about buying Greenland. We've been trying to buy Greenland from 1905. We think we'll get it by 2030. And he's talking about it now. Now the price is going to go up. And they don't even realize the resources they have under there. But this fucking baboon started talking about it. And that, like, there has to be somebody who decided we need to go from New York to California.
So you think there's an element of nobility in the establishment?
Here's the thing.
Due to money, because the selfishness of making sure to protect the money.
There's a nobility in your business succeeding because the people that work for you also succeed and they thrive within that business. So like, you wanting to succeed is going to help them pay for their families and everything. Now, I'm not saying they make the right decisions. They make fucking horrible decisions that we benefit from, and we just get to complain and whine about them.
Because we're on the right side of it.
You know what I'm saying? They go start some war somewhere. We take all the oil. Oil's $2 a gallon. We get to take all that oil, enjoy all that oil at $2 a gallon, and still go, they suck. How they going to make those wars over there, them piece of shit days? And they can't even complain about it.
So money keeps them honest. Their selfish intentions and desires makes them do the right thing. So, okay, so then the question becomes, are they more driven by freedom, status, or control?
I would assume the latter.
Control.
You could say they're one and the same.
Yeah, they could all be wrapped up into one. I assume these people are patriots. They just have a different